So now I'm back with the last video before we actually get our Leaf. Where I'm gonna try to keep this a little bit more, not shorter maybe, but keep it to different, use different, go through all the parts in order, whatever. Call it scripted or whatever you want. So today we're going to the dealer. We were actually going there on Friday. Today's Monday the 7th of March. But we were going there this Friday, but it turned out that in this town that we live there, they have this huge ski event that takes place over 2 weeks called the Vasaloppet. And well, the dealer was actually participating in one of the races. There are multiple races throughout these 2 weeks. But he was, doing a ski race on Friday, so we came there and he wasn't there. Funny thing is that, when it comes to EVs, that this is a Nissan dealer, and the Nissan dealer here, and I guess in other places too, also sell Renault. And I'd been looking there every time I've gone there. That why do they only have the Leaf? Why don't where's the Renault Zoe? But lo and behold, on Friday when we came there, they had a Renault Zoe standing there. We're like, oh, cool. So I tried it out, sat in. It's like pretty decent, but touchscreen is crap, but otherwise it's probably a decent car. Apart from the fact that they removed the fast charging or quick charging port or quick charging capability of the car. Before, the Renault Zoe had, you could charge it, semi-fast charge it at 22 kilowatts, and you could fast charge it on AC at like 43 kilowatts. Don't quote me on that, but around 40 somewhere. And I read a couple of days prior to Friday that they had removed it on the 2016 version of the car. So I asked the dealer about it, and it turns out that from 2014 and onwards, they have been removing the quick charging function. So you can only semi-fast charge the Renault Zoe now. Well, of course, if you have an older one, of course you have the fast charging, but anyways, it doesn't have that. So it only has the 22 kilowatt charging. That's the fastest charging you can take. And that will, from 0 to 100, it will take 1.5 hours. From 0 to 80%, it will take about an hour. And I don't know, when I read that the first time around, I was like, on the net, it's like, holy crap, that can't be true. I mean, especially because if you look at people that are skeptical against EVs, then they, well, they usually just go, that's the thing that they're worried about or keep talking about. It takes such a long time to charge, you can't go that far, and this and that. And then you take away the fast charging. It's like you had a car, 1 year model of a car has a, well, let's say a 40-gallon tank. I don't know how much gallons are, but just keep it in gallons. Let's say a 20-gallon tank. And 2 years later, they come out with the 2016, and they say, well, it only has like a 5-gallon tank this time around. Now, well, we know why, but it has. It's like, what the, seriously, holy crap, I was baffled by that thing. Okay, but anyway, so obviously we're not getting a Renault Zoe, but we were thinking about it. Sure, we were thinking about it, but health. And to conclude on that thing, but when I asked him, since the Nissan seller wasn't there, this guy was a Volvo sales guy, so because they sell Volvo too. So, but anyways, and he said, we'll come back on Monday. And I asked him, but we're still here. Maybe we can just take the Zoe for a test drive. It would be fun, it's an EV, fun to see what it does. And the guy goes, yeah, sure, but no, hold on, no, you can't. So he was first like, yeah, you could take it out for a drive, but then he goes, no, but it only has summer tires on it. And here we have like, a decent amount of snow at this time of year. And actually, from the 1st of December to sometime, maybe it's late March, maybe early April, it's actually the law that you have to have winter tires, studded or studless, doesn't really matter, but you have to have winter tires in the car. And he goes, well, it only has summer tires. That makes the car illegal to drive on a public road in Sweden at this time of year. I mean, what kind of dealer has that kind of car? Who does that? Because if I would have gone up the stairs, up to the Volvo apartment part of the store, I can bet you that all those like 40 or 50 brand new Volvos or, Volvos that are up there had winter tires on them so that I, as a buyer, could go up and say, I would like to buy a Volvo. I would like to test drive this one and this one and this one and this one. And they would all be, sure, fine. Here you go. Here's the keys. But now, after many years, they get the Renault Zoe. And he's like, well, we don't have winter tires on them. It's like, okay. So I was always like feeling, do you actually want to sell a car? Or, do you only have the EVs just to show people that maybe this is the future in like 100 years? I don't know. What the hell? Really got me upset though. But anyways, so we're going to the dealer today to sign a lease on the 2016 24 kilowatt Nissan Leaf. Hells yeah. We're going for the Accenta version, so the mid-range trim level. And we are not, well, the thing is that, since either they have cars in Sweden in store, or not here, but, somewhere in Sweden at any dealer, or at their, they gather them up in a port down in Gothenburg. They have a lot of cars there that don't, hasn't been sold yet or not. So the question about color comes down to what cars are available. We are pretty much, me and my girlfriend are pretty much like, we'd like the blue, but the red will do we find it's a real nice car. It looks real nice. And we can go with a gun metallic. The 2014 version of 2015 Leaf that we tried out last year was a gun gray metallic. It's a real nice color. We just feel like white, no please, it's really boring. And black, well, black is just black. There's so many black cars on the road, it's not that fun. Blue, preferably blue. Red if you have them. Otherwise we can just, it's not like we're buying the car and then we have to sit there with a car that we don't like because have 2 years, the lease is up, and if we want to, we can buy it outright, or we could just return it. So that's it. So 2016 24 kilowatt Accenta trim level, color blue, prefer blue or red, or otherwise I can get back to you on that when we know for sure. So, costs for leasing the 2016 24 kilowatt Nissan Leaf. Well, the thing is that the standard price for the car, because they have the car varies when you lease it in Sweden, at least I know probably other countries too, is exactly in the same way that if you would buy the Leaf but lease the battery pack. The standard version thing is then you have a 24 kilowatt version and you get to drive 20,000 kilometers or 12,427 miles over the 2-year lease period. That costs in euros 333 euros, 362 US dollars, or 251 British pounds. But we just looked at all the last couple of years now. How much have we driven? How much have we driven every year since I got my car that I have now? I got it in 2010, so it's 6 years ago. And we saw that, well, we get over 10,000 kilometers, almost every year. It's like 11,000, 12,000. So it's 1 year is like probably 9,000, but most of the time get over 10,000. So the next bump up is to lease the car for 2 years, and you get to drive 30,000 kilometers or 18,641 miles. And that's the one we went for, because then we can do, 15,000 miles a year. It's just, not kilometers, of course, sorry, not miles. And that puts an extra cost on the car, on the lease, of 300 Swedish kronor, or 32 euros, 35 US dollars, or 25 British pounds. And then you think, why don't you just get the the 12,000 mile variant, the first one? Well, if you do that, or if you get any lease of these leases, you drive over that, a lot of 18,000 miles or 12,000 miles in the ballpark there, Then you have to pay over mileage, which means you pay a sum for every mile that you go over, not miles actually, since we count kilometers here. So you do the math. But for every, if I were to get it for and drive 12,427 miles before the 2 years lease is up, every mile that I do after those 12,000 miles or kilometers, after the 20,000 kilometers, I'd have to pay 15 Swedish kronor per every 10 kilometers that I exceed. And, well, how much is that then? Well, let's see here. I have the calculations right up here. That's 1.61 euros, 1.76 US dollars, or $1.76, and 1 British pound, 24, whatever they have, 1.24 British pounds for every 10 kilometers. So if you drive, and and for every month, if you drive, I don't know how many miles you drive a month, but you get 100 kilometers over that, then it's 150 Swedish kronor. And that's like 100 kilometers is like nothing. So you drive probably 1,000 kilometers a month. So let's say you do 1,000 Swedish kilometers. Well, then you're paying 161 euros. You're paying 176 US dollars or 124 British pounds a month. So hold on. So the extra cost to bump up from 20,000 kilometers to 30,000 kilometers was 300 Swedish kronor or 35 US dollars. So hold on here, $176 compared to $35. Well, so that's why we went for the 30,000 kilometers or 18,641 mile option, because it gets cheaper. Over mileage is just not something you want to do. It's just, I'm guessing it's the same with leasing the Leaf in other countries too. As I know in Britain, if you lease the battery pack and you realize after like 1.5 years that hell, I'm going to go over the limit that I'm paying for, then you can just go to the dealer and upgrade, and that's not actually going to cost you that much. And I don't know how much it costs, but I've seen videos, and I just get the feeling that it's not that expensive. So anyways, yeah, so that's it when it comes to costs. And the standard price for the 30 kilowatt, as I said before, it was 431 euros, 468 US dollars, or 325 British pounds. And then you still have to add those, 30 euros, 35 US dollars, 25 pounds to that price to get those 30,000 miles. So, it's a lot more expensive. It's like, that's why we went for the 24 kilowatt version. And also that after looking at how much we drive and how we drive, that, it's not cost efficient for us to get the 30 kilowatt version. It was nice to have the range, but since they upped the price, we feel this is not worth it. And I'm finalizing anything with the dealer. So once we get there, maybe they have some kind of crazy deal on the 30 kilowatt right now. Get it now and get it for the same price. And sure, then we'll definitely go for the 30 kilowatt version. It's not, there's no question then. But anyways, so that's it. The home charging solution that I've been talking about before, it's also sorted. It's not installed yet, but I finally, came to terms, so to speak, with the firm that was going to install it. They got me a solution. The solution basically was, we have these boxes outside, with the car parking, where you can plug in your, ice car to get, preheat it with a heater element and, heat the engine and whatnot. You plug a cable in and you do that, because when it's very cold here in Sweden in the winter, and the ice is 20 to 30 degrees minus, you need something that heats up the engine, not heat it up, but just essentially get it to turn around. And we had to make a little own solution. There was basically one of those boxes that the housing that they put these things in. It's on they are here that we live in, where we live. They're controlled by a timer, and also temperature controlled. So it will run maximum for like 3 hours. And the thing is, they only put out 6 amps, 230 volts, 6 amps. And since it's timer controlled, it wouldn't work for a car, for the Leaf. So we're getting one of those, housings, exactly the same, but we're putting up a new one with a standard Suco outlet. It's basically a 230 watt outlet, and that can produce up to 16 amps. Most of the time we're going to use it at 10 amps because all the cars connected there during the winter, we just can't draw more than 10 amps out of power because then the fuse will blow. So, but from like next month and all through spring, summer, and fall, the cars that are parking, the ICE cars, they're not going to be able to use the heating solution that they have because the temperature sensor and the boxes won't allow it, so it won't put any power out. So then we can get out 16 amps, and we haven't gotten it yet, but we're going to get one of these aftermarket chargers that have have all the power things in the plug, so you can set it from like 6 amps up to 16 amps. Get one of those and have it so we can differentiate and use 16 amps if we in the summer because we'll charge faster. But first of all, and probably a lot of times, we're going to use the included charger for the car's charger. Well, the EVSI, or what was it called? I never remember the name of that thingy. But 10 amps, car's totally flat, then it will take 10-12 hours to charge it. It's not a problem, and most of the time, 99.9% of the time, we'll never drive it, so it's totally flat. We'll have like power left in the battery, or charge left in the battery. So we're looking in excess of 8 to 10 hours to charge the car. Probably even shorter than that. If you come home with a half battery, then yeah, it'll be significantly less than that. So we're going to use that standard Suco outlet, and and from that we pay the people that we rent from. We'll pay them 200 Swedish crowns a month for the charging. Although first off, the charging solution that costs us 7,500 Swedish crowns, or 8,300 euros, $878 or 621 British pounds. And that's a lot of money compared to if you look at Great Britain, where you have British Gas installing these chargers for free, and if you want the 32 amp version, then you're not paying that much more. You're paying a little bit in fee. There's nothing like that in Sweden. I mean, when we looked at getting a wall charger, a charge box, 16 or 32 amp version, as I talked in the previous video about that, it's almost 3 times as much money as this. There's just no infrastructure for it. There are no solutions for it at all. So we had to go to this firm, tell them that this is what we need. We had to ask our landlord, can we do this? And then he said, yeah, sure. And then we went to the electrician and said, help us with this. So he came up with a solution. Or this is a Swedish company called Garo that actually makes these housings and these charging solutions, not charging, but heating solutions and whatnot for car heaters. In Sweden, have solutions for this. They have so that you have the same housing, but you put in it's for car charging. It's for electric vehicle charging. And the reason that it's more expensive because the electrician said that I could build one of these. You take one of these empty boxes and build in the things you need. The kilowatt meter and Suco outlet and wire it for you, and that would be cheaper. But as he said, the Garo box or the Garo conversion kit for the housing is certified and it's tested, and so if anything would go wrong, there would be no blame on us or on the electrician, or electrician would probably be to blame, but if we were to damage the car while charging at home, there would be warranties and whatnot that would cover that, because the equipment that we are using is certified and approved to use for car charging. Yeah, and that became a little bit more expensive, sometimes 500 kronor, or 803 euros, $878 US, or 621 British pounds. Um, and then for the electricity, we came up with a solution with our landlord that we will pay him 200 Swedish kronor or 21 euros, 23 US dollars, or 16 pounds 50 British pounds, well, 16 and a half pounds a month for the electricity. It's it's a set fee, and we came up with that because we talked, and this is probably very relevant for people that are living in rented apartments or whatnot, or even you own your apartment because you don't own the parking spot. Uh, how do you come up with this sum? Well, what we did was that for 4 months up until December, or last of December last year, 4 months prior to that, we started putting down every kilometer or mile that we drove, so that we could see every month how much are we driving, and then we took all these numbers and we split them in four and saw that okay, we averaged this and this amount of miles, and then we looked at also that the fact that many of the trips, 7, 8 of them were very long trips. They were in the axis of like 200 kilometers, 250 kilometers, 300 kilometers. But the thing was that on the long trips, then we would pass quick chargers, and we would charge at our destination because there were quick chargers there, or there were quick chargers along the way. And so a lot of the charging, like if we would drive, back, drive away and then back a total of like 250 kilometers, then half of that would only be the amount that we would charge at home. So we took out, and we realized that we would be using electricity to charge the Leaf for the amount of like 150 Swedish kronor. So like, yeah, a lot less than these 200. But then, we had a buffer so we could charge more, and it's a neat sum. So, and we also discussed with the landlord that, since we're installing a kilowatt meter, we told him we can pay for the electricity. We can pay the exact same amount per kilowatt hour as we do for our, electricity at home here. No problem. Because that would actually be cheaper for us. But it's a lot, that's a lot more hassle, because then I'd have to, somehow, I had to go out and read out off the meter once a month and, email him or whatever the information, and then he'd have to send it to their economy office to how much money is that, and then they had to put that on our rent bill, and it would differ every month. So, and we told him, this is the figures that we come up with, and this is a little bit over that, so this is really a lot higher than higher amount of electricity than we're actually going to be using. So, and also, we installed a kilowatt meter, which means that if he thinks, or if they feel like after like 3 months or 6 months that they want to check, to see that we're not pulling their leg, that we're not, scamming them out of money, we said, feel free to come over to our apartment. We'll give you the key for the box, and you can open it up and look at the kilowatt meter. And if for some reason we are actually, scamming you, then, then we can pay for the actual amount of electricity we use, and we can report it to you every month. So it's a safe situation. I mean, no one is getting fooled here. And so we're going to them today also to send an agreement or a contract that I drew up, basically stating the fact that we're paying $23 a month, and that we have the right to put up this equipment, and if we move, then we will take the equipment away, but they will have the option to buy it if they want to. Let's say that in a couple of years that someone has actually, more people around here have started to think about getting an EV, because once one person gets an EV, then the chances are that some other person that lives in this neighborhood will see that and start going, I only drive around in town, and why not get an EV? So we just to have it on paper, because who knows, this guy that we are communicating with right now, that's the boss there, and let's say he gets a new job or whatever, then we're just on the safe side, because the guy that comes after him, for all I know, he could be an extreme EV hater, and I'd be skeptical as hell and start going on about, there's no paper, there's no contract on this, there's nothing to prove that this is actually legit, and he just, tears us a new one, so that we're standing there with like a car, but the charging capability for the charging infrastructure for the car is gone. So just to be safe, it's nothing fancy. It's just a paper that says, that puts up all these details that we are paying for the charging solution, we are paying them this certain amount of money every month, and nothing fancy pants about it. Nothing at all. So that's it. That's how far we've come, and we don't know, if the dealer can find a car at any dealer in Sweden that suits our criteria, then I mean either they'll just get them to ship it, but that still take 1 or 2 weeks because cars go on car trailers, and they don't drive a car trailer with one Nissan Leaf on it. They're preferably wanting to fill up the trailer. So in that case, we'll just end up taking the train or bus to anywhere where in Sweden they now have this Leaf that we want, and we'll pick it up. Or worst case scenario would be that we end up, we'll have to order a new car, which would be, I mean, we're still getting a new car, but if it's already made, then or manufactured, it's going to be a lot faster. But it's just, we don't know yet if there is a car in Sweden that totally meets these criteria, or if they have to manufacture one. So we don't know the delivery time of this car. And by the way, the total cost here that we were talking about, for owning the car, we had 24 kilowatts version, 30,000 kilometers, 18,641 miles on it that we get to drive, and that will net us a cost of 3,390 Swedish kronor a month, or 363 euros a month, $397 US a month, or 281 British pounds a month. And then I had that, in that cost, the money for the charging solution and the monthly cost for power is not included. But we've done the math and looked at it, and the thing is, you're not saving a ton of money on this. You're saving some money. You're saving like a couple of bucks, or a couple of pounds, even up to towards not 100 pounds, but or $100, but equivalent basically. Because we looked at every year, the last 3-4 years on the car that we have now, how much gas have we put in it, how much have the repairs been on the car, and so we got a number of, when we took the cost for every year and you split it on 12, the cost was higher than owning the Nissan Leaf, leasing the Nissan Leaf, even if you put the charging solution split up on, let's say, 12 months or 24 months, since we're going to have the car for 2 years, and the $200 a month, or the $23 a month for power. It was still a lot cheaper. Not a lot cheaper, but it was cheaper. And I don't have the exact number around that. I know I misplaced those documents. Anyways, that was it. So it was actually cheaper. And I mean, the main reason we're doing this, getting an electric car, is many people probably think it's only, you're environmentally conscious or whatever, but that's not it. That's just that's a byproduct of it all. It's a bonus. We are lazy and we are cheap people. Not cheap, but you want to get you don't want to pay for things if you can get it cheaper or even for free. Like electricity at quick chargers and many places in Sweden that are free. That's a lot more fun than paying for gas. I mean, yeah, and then if you look at gas costs and you look at how much gas we put into the car, well, we put into our car gas that is equivalent of about 10 times as much as we pay for charging it. And that's if we which would to charge it for the amount of like 200 Swedish crowns a month. And pay for that. We put in 2,000. Easily gas for about 2,000 Swedish crowns. So if you look at that, it's like we put in gas for like $210. We put in gas for 210 euros, 230 US dollars, 160 pounds, easily. And then you have services, you have costs for repairs, and just last year we had to change the steering column, but where all the wiper controls and whatnot, the whole pack had to go out of my car. And I had to pay a mechanic for that because you have to remove the steering wheel with the airbags and whatnot, so you can't do that yourself. And that cost me basically what the charging solution costs, about $800, $900. And you know, in a car, you usually get around that a year, and then you have the service. You know, serving say one share and changing oils and whatnot. And then you have bought tires, but instead of winter tires, that was also about $850. It made, you know, €800. Summer tires had to buy one pair, one set, and all these costs that I'm talking about now is like in the last 3-4 years on a car. Not at the same time, but you know, they come and go. So the cost of owning the Nissan Leaf is lower than owning a gasoline car if you lease it, and if you buy two, probably. But the reason we don't feel like buying an electric car right now is because there is this period right now with electric cars that they are totally usable, but it's evolving so rapidly that if I buy a 2016 24 kilowatt Nissan Leaf, and I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be the most easy car to sell in 2 years or 3 years when, you know, Nissan comes out with a high range Nissan Leaf, or when the Tesla Model 3 comes out. These cars are going to be hard to sell. You're going to be able to sell them, but you're going to lose a lot of money on them. I think at least you're probably going to do that. And why take that chance? We can lease it. The cost is the same. It's actually a little bit cheaper to lease it, because in our lease, that also includes the service of the car once a year, and it includes summer and winter tires. So what's the problem? And if you have any questions about, you know, the costs, since we don't know the calculations, you know, with how much does it actually cost to lease it and this and that. In Sweden, it's probably applicable to a lot of other countries in Europe and maybe the United States, I don't know. But if you have any questions about that, you know, just feel free to leave a comment, and you know, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. And I'll get back also with a new video once we've been to the dealer and, you know, see what they have to say and how long it's going to take to get the car, and when we get the charging solution installed, because he ordered the charging the things that he needed on Friday, and he said the delivery on those was up to 10 days. So I'll get back with videos both on charging and progress on getting the car. But now we're on the way. See you. Bye.